In the name of Christ, our companion. Amen. Please be seated. Where in your own life have you felt most clearly the presence of God? In my life, I've felt God in a variety of ways and circumstances, but it hasn't always been in the church. In fact, it's more often been in places outside the church when I've felt God most clearly. For me, those clearest moments of encountering God come in moments of epiphany. Those moments when some new truth or wisdom is revealed that previously went unnoticed. Perhaps it happens in the hearing of a song. For me, it's often in various revelations of art, some beautiful photograph or some piece of theater. Or sometimes it's in a moment of clarity that comes when I'm writing, or in something I've read. And yes, sometimes these moments of most clearly feeling the presence of God in my own life come in the church too. But that's not the only times that they come. I couldn't get this out of my mind this week when I read this account of the Apostle Paul's preaching that we read about in the book of Acts this morning. Paul tells these people, the God who made heaven and earth and everything in it does not live in shrines made by human hands. If I could be so bold as to edit the apostle, I'd say, the God who made heaven and earth and everything in it does not live just in shrines made by human hands. And I think that's the point he's getting at. So often people work to put God into little boxes, little manageable containers. The idea of a God who made heaven and earth and everything in it is too much for us to grasp. So we try to understand God in little manageable bits. And too often in that process, that devolves into trying to manage God. As anyone who's ever supervised people will tell you, managing people is hard enough. Imagine trying to manage God. Yet very often we all do it in one way or another. And one of the ways that we in the church sometimes try to manage God is by limiting our understanding of God to a single location, to the church. Sometimes we tie God to just the altar. Or sometimes just to a single act, our weekly worship around the altar. But God, who made the heavens and the earth and all that is in them, cannot be contained in the little boxes we've devised. The shrines we've made are meant to help us understand. They're meant to help us approach God. Never to keep God filed away for when we're ready. The altar isn't like a crate that you keep a new puppy in until he's mature enough to roam about on his own. If this time of pandemic and quarantine has taught us anything, I hope it's helped to teach us that God isn't contained in the church. Of course, that's something we've often said, but in our daily lives, we haven't always acted that way. Many of us encounter God in worship as if that's the only way we can. But in these days, when our understanding of worship has been broken open, we've seen that even our humble acts of worship can't be contained as tightly as we used to think. Worship doesn't just happen here anymore, in this building and around this altar. Worship is happening right now all over the place. Our worship together as a community is happening in living rooms, in studies, in bedrooms, in basements, and who knows where else. And it's not just happening now. One of the gifts some people have told me that they found in these days of remote worship is that they're embracing the freedom of worshiping at different times. On a sort of selfish level, I appreciate everyone who watches these services live and the ones who wish peace to one another in the comments when we get to that point in the service, and who share their joys and concerns with one another in the comments when we get to that point in the service. But that appreciation is about me. That interaction we share feeds something in me. But the worship, the true worship of the people of God, isn't limited to even that. There are others who are worshiping with us at other times. And just as we are no less together while we're separated by space, we're also no less together when we're separated by time. Quarantine has shown us the truth that God can find us and work with us and unite us in ways that we never before dared to imagine. God is not limited by the shrines made by human hands that we have built. Be they shrines of brick and mortar or wood, or shrines of time and place or habit. God works with us and through us and for us, even outside the boxes that we've constructed. Through whatever the future holds, I hope you will hold on to this truth, that this experience has shown you holy places and times that you didn't know about or consider before. And remember that there are more still. God is still ready to be revealed in ways that you hadn't planned for and that you couldn't expect. God is still waiting for us in sights and scenes we have yet to discover. Though we may feel alone, remember that Christ has promised never to leave us orphaned. Christ has promised that we will never be alone. And God has revealed to us that we are not alone. God has revealed to us that this community, though scattered, is still together. We're still worshiping together. We're still praying together. Even singing together and working together. Now in a new way. Because God keeps showing us new ways, even long after we think we've got it all figured out and boxed up and managed. Through Christ, all things are made new. Even us. Even our worship. Amen.